This is all fresh, all live. All right, all right, all right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy Sunday to you folks. Happy Sunday to you folks. Before we get started today, I have to send my sincere condolences to anyone going through what's going on in California with these wildfires. I mean, I've been offline for the past couple of days, but I have had an opportunity to have several road trips, and I've caught up with some of the news, and my heart just goes out to anyone that is affected by these wildfires. You know, that's a difficult thing to deal with. So condolences to anyone that may be listening that is going through that. So before we get started, let me just introduce myself. I, as one Crookshank, one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and 5-time published author and educator. It's Kimberly. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Doing great. Good to see you. Good to see you. I'm Kimberly with Art and HR Solutions, HR professional for over 18 years and a swan. You had a birthday
I had a
and
birthday, yes.
and you were on the road traveling. How'd it go?
It was absolutely fantastic. I got to tell you, let me not say fantastic. It was better than what I had originally planned because I drove. So Wednesday was the birthday. And, you know, whenever your birthday falls in the middle of the week, sometimes it's hard to find things to do. So the plan was to go to Atlanta to visit the College Football Hall of Fame. And being that I currently reside in West Palm Beach, I've driven from West Palm Beach to Atlanta before, and I had absolutely no interest in making that trip again. So it was so long, man. So I decided I was going to stop at Panama City and Bikini Beach. So I spent my birthday, the actual birthday, in Bikini Beach in Panama City. And man, that day in itself, I could end the trip right there. I could end the trip right there. I mean, again, this is what, in the middle of the winter, so Panama City Beach is not that many people. I somehow end up in the hotel where there's a woman there with her son, a single mom there with her son that happens to be a masseuse. And this is someone that charges $400 an hour for
Right.
massage. So, you know, I work it in, I sweet talk my way a little bit, and I buy her 2 shots and a son of pizza, and I was able to give me a full massage. I'm like, and I had to prove it. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's my birthday. I'm telling you, you got to hook me up. So I was able to get a discount on the massage, which was great. And then the next day, that's when the birthday officially started. The other stuff was great. This was impromptu stuff. So then I go to Atlanta, make it to Atlanta. This is the day of the Orange Bowl. This is when, you know, college football, everything, a lot of stuff I talk about, this is at its height. So I go to the College Football Hall of Fame, and oh my God, I don't have time to give a little price down there for 30 minutes if I was to stay there. But let me just give you guys a brief understanding. I walk in, and it's almost like I'm in heaven. They have the school I played for. They have that helmet lined up with all the hundreds of helmets. They have it to where you put your information in, and it's like a museum of all the old school college football stuff. And for those of you who don't know, I'm a diehard Michigan fan. So the fact that we won the national championship last year, they had the national championship trophy on display with, you know, the main. I'm moved. So then you walk around and you see all of the places, all the things that I've been like worshiping for. It looked like my room when I was a kid. So again, you know, go through that. And then luckily I have an aunt that lives in Atlanta. So I drove out and spent the night with her. And it just so happened that my cousin, her 2 sons, one of my cousins was there. So we went and worked out together. But then the other son, he didn't play. He graduated from Notre Dame. And, you know, I ended up watching the Notre Dame Penn State game, and, you know, he was all excited, and I just go to sleep. And then right before the snowstorm, I make it out right before the snow hits
Good for you.
Yeah, and it was luck. I was lucky because I had to set my alarm as I got my nap to make it back to Panama City. So I make it back to Panama City, and then, you know, I was so moved, Kimberly, from the experience at the College Football Hall of Fame. After I checked out of Panama City, I was going to just go back to Palm Beach, but I said, you know what? I'm going to stop in Tallahassee. I'm going to visit because if I'm not rooting for Michigan,
nice.
I'm a Florida State fan whenever Michigan's not available or not playing. So I drive out to Tallahassee since it's on the way, visit Doak Campbell Stadium, and just moved again. Like I'm sitting here like impressed and incredibly impressed with just the whole mystique of Florida State football. And that
Hmm.
night, so here's the kicker, and here's where I want a lot of people to really understand the importance of working out and staying in shape and keeping your body where it needs to be. Because the reason I stopped in Tallahassee because I wanted a place to watch the football game. This was the Cotton Bowl, right? Even though I get Ohio State's playing and all, I was hoping Ohio State lost, but that's another story. But anyway, so I look at this place called Bowden's. Now we all know Bobby Bowden, legendary Florida State football coach, and I'm thinking it's more of an upscale, classy restaurant that you go to that's quiet and I can watch the game in peace. Listen,
No.
I just turned 36 and I am watching the game with a bunch of drunk college students. Girl, I mean, and the thing is, you hear about Florida State when you're in the football world, right? Everyone, like all the girls there's like, look, don't worry about it, man. We have to be 21 just to get in here, so we're good. So it was like, oh snap, y'all know the game. So I was asking the girls, I'm just testing. I'm like, all right, how old do you think I am? And I'm getting like mid-20s, mid to late 20s. I'm like, okay, this thing is
I like
working.
this place.
I like this. I like this. So, from that element, it's like you still got it as you can still pull you. If you really wanted to get down, we can still pull you a college girl if you really wanted to do that. So that went down. Obviously, Ohio State wins, which sucked. But I didn't drink or anything like that. Woke up early the next morning, worked out, and then drove over to Gainesville. And that's when I visited the swamp and saw the mystique of the Florida Gators. And I'm thinking again, the Move Swiftly School of Sports Marketing. It needs this. It needs it. This is what I'm talking about right here. And then after Gainesville, make it back to Palm Beach last night, made it to church this morning, and now I'm here talking to Kimberly. So it was, and
Look
between
at
all
that.
these trips, by the way, I'm tuning in to the Move Swiftly podcast over and over. I'm like sharpening what my business frameworks are going to be, really figuring out how I'm going to, put out content. All that kind of stuff is going on in my mind. So I got a whole day of just catching up on stuff. Like I was telling her before we started recording, this is the first time I'm actually looking at my laptop in about 5 days, which is why she's actually the one picking the topic today, because I was just in I wasn't even in the world. I was in some sort of fantasy world for the past 5 days, really just absorbing some incredible energy.
Well, it was through that though that he
And yeah,
picked the
that's what got
topic. He
me
just
when I
doesn't
texted
know
you.
it.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yes.
So that's why I'm curious as to what you
Yeah.
like, what you saw, what I said. And this is the thing too. Before I let you go, Kimberly, when you are committed to putting out content on a regular basis, when you become this person that's constantly putting it out, you just have to trust. You have to have faith in your plan, faith in what you're putting out there, that it's helping somebody in some way, shape,
Mhm.
form, or fashion, and then it's going to be told to you. That's really what you have to do. You can't worry about your likes and how many people are following you and who's doing this and who's that. You got to put it out and just start believing and believing and believing. So I'll let you go.
Yes. And that's exactly it. That was the whole thing of it. I was cleaning my living room, going through some tools, and um, little message popped up because we all take a day of detoxing, from the internet. So I wasn't on, I was listening to music, but I got a notification that you had posted on YouTube. I got a support, so I pressed on it, and Swan was talking about his three favorite birthdays. But while he was talking about his three favorite birthdays, like the three top things, he's talking about your ACL injury and how you could have quit and you didn't quit, and then it just like sparked something in me, and I'm like, how many times could have quit through your story? How many times could I have quit through my story?
Right,
And at the time, we feel like, oh, we're never going to make it. Nothing ever good's going to come out of it
right.
because we're in the fire, and that's what it's about. We're overwhelmed with life, with work, with responsibilities. And how do you do it? How do you come out of that to get in the mindset that we're in? Or how do you get in the mindset just to even put one foot in front of another? So that is how I came up with the idea for the podcast today.
Yes, and just so we're clear, the title is Forged by Fire. So what I'll do is I'll retell the three birthday stories. So for those of you who don't know, every Tuesday I do a top 5 Tuesday. Normally it's a top 5 Tuesday. Last week I did top 10 because I was recapping the whole of 2024. And then this past Tuesday, I had to do top 3 because my birthday was that following Wednesday. And while I don't take any birthday for granted, every day for granted for that matter, but the 3 birthdays that I put out there, these were the 3 that made me want to build a life and create a life in which I'm celebrating my birthday every single day. Because when you look at the time frame and what was going on with me and what was going on in the world at those particular times, it taught me, hey, you do not quit. You do not quit. No matter how bad things may be going for you right now, if you quit every day of your life, and the possibility of you actually having a good birthday is not going to even be possible because you quit this thing. All right. The first one is 2000. Year 2000. I'm in 5th grade. And for some reason, I don't know why my father decided. I guess it's because I couldn't stay home by myself, whatever the reason was. I'm too young to remember. But my father and sister had, now this is 2000. So I was in 5th grade. My sister was in 10th grade. She's starting to think about colleges and all that kind of stuff. And my father took her to some lecture that I could not stay awake for. I fell asleep and they had to take me, obviously, because I guess they didn't want me home by myself. I didn't know what the plan was. I knew it was my birthday. But anyway, I fall asleep at this lecture that my sister and father went to. And by the time I'm waking up, my mother's like chugging me, waking me up, smiling, like, you're happy to see me, aren't you? I mean, yes, I was, but I didn't know exactly why. So what happened was it just so happened that January 8th, okay, listen to me, Redskins fans, listen to me very closely. January 8th, 2000 was the last time the Washington Redskins won a home playoff game. Okay, right now, today, we're set to play another playoff game, but it's going to be away. I'm talking about a home playoff game. Was the last time they actually played in a home one and actually won the damn thing. All right, they played a few times. RG3 that year they were home, but Green Bay tapped that ass, and then it was another time where Tampa Bay came to DC, and this was when we were the Washington football team, and we lost that one too. Played in 2 other ones. Okay, I'm a diehard fan. So anyway, we get to the theater. The fact that they won this game is kind of just a cherry on top. But we get to the theater where they normally play these like old school movies, and it's just it's not like in a mall. It's like just a theater, and they just happen to be playing the Redskins game. And my mother takes me there to go watch the game, and the bouncer says, "We're full. And she just is persistent as she says, "Look, it's his birthday. Can you check? Can you maybe somebody didn't show up?" Whatever it is. And he walks us in, and immediately, boom, we find 2 seats, no questions asked, none of that. And the thing about it is, when we sat down, my mother looks at me and she goes, "Look, never take no for an answer. Never, ever, ever, give up on the things that you want to give up on." Long story short, obviously the Redskins won the game. And I have a whole article about this, so you guys can read it on your own. And at the end of the day, she goes, "Look, not a bad way to spend your birthday." Now, the thing is, I was 5th grade, wide-eyed, diehard Redskins fan, in the coat, everything burgundy and gold. And for them to win that game in the way that I was able to experience it, it shaped all of my life. It shaped everything. Don't quit, the whole thing. And this is a 5th grader taking in these experiences, right? So let me give you the 2 other ones in a quick preface. So 2009, this was a year removed from me being in college, and I had tore my ACL. And I was working at a gym, and I'd say sort of dating this single mother that I knew wasn't a good idea, but because she had features, because of the position that I was in and how easy it would have been for me to settle, it would have been very easy for me to just settle, get a job that's paying me, 80, it's close to 6 figures, whatever they were making as trainers back then, and just be a very settled person, never go back and play football. But in 2009, January 2009, if you could recall, the Florida Gators, they won their national championship. And again, I'm not a big Florida Gators fan, but I am a fan of greatness. I am a fan of that comeback story. And it was at that time where Tebow had made that promise to the Florida Gator faithful. And when I saw him win that, my mother, father, sister, and I found out my niece was coming at that point. They took me to the Gaylord Hotel in Baltimore. It was an absolutely magnificent facility, magnificent place. And when I saw him, take his team, fulfill that promise, I said, I got to go back and play. So that's 2009. And then last year, 2024, this was a whole year where I decided I was going to spend a whole year sober. My beloved, my Michigan Wolverines, they did it 15-0, absolutely did it. I'm on a boat, and the first sip of alcohol, and I made a commitment as we're winning our games. Like again, they played some close games, and I wanted to grab a beer because they stressed me out when they play and shit. But as they were winning their games, and I was staying sober, I was kind of looking at it as, all right, I'm gonna stay sober till we get that championship. They win the championship, the ice, the champagne, popping bottles. I'm on the boat with Michigan fans. It was incredible. So those were the top three. Those were the top three. I could, like I said, I could stay on each one for a whole 30 minutes, but I don't want to dominate the microphone too much. I'll let Kimberly jump in here.
So it's those moments that define who you are, right?
Right.
And during any of those times, did you feel like I can't do this anymore? I'm just gonna give up. That
Oh
you
yeah.
know,
I mean,
at any
it,
time.
it happened virtually every day, and especially when it would have made so much more sense. Now, the one that really hits me, it's 2009, because the thing about playing college football, and this is kind of was the theme of this birthday throughout, whether it was Panama City, whether it was going to Atlanta, checking out Florida State, checking out the Gators. When I walked in there and I realized that the school I played for actually is documented and is there in the College Football Hall of Fame, I think back to that 2009 one and said, Aswan, what the hell would have happened if you would have quit? What would have happened if you would have taken that torn ACL that you had the year before? Okay, you work at a gym now. Okay, now you're making a little bit of money. Now you're gonna be some baby. You're gonna have be some stepdad for some whole ass. And I don't mean to call it that, but she was. So I'll say it in a nicer way. Someone who you know for a fact.
That was not a nice way of swan.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm working on that. Just left it, but someone that you know that you don't need to be shacking up with, someone that was
Yes.
inspiring
Anyone
that
that's in
life.
your life. Yeah, it could be
Exactly.
anyone. Yeah.
At 19, and
Hmm.
even though at 19 it sounded so sweet at 19, and it would have made sense for me to go that route. But then when you have an experience like I had at 36, and you realize you were a part of something special, you actually get to walk into a place like this when you could build your family on your terms and take your family to a place like this and show them, yeah, this is where I played, this is what I'm about. The feeling of not quitting is so rewarding. And here's a point to that question that I want to make sure I make for anybody that's listening now. I was 19 years old when I decided to go back and play for Stony Brook. Okay. I just experienced something 36. That is what 15, yeah, no, 17 years later. So just because you're making sacrifices now and you may not see the immediate gratification, it's important that you understand the gratification are going to be coming in the moments later on, and you have no control on when exactly it's going to happen. All right, I am not able to do the work I'm doing on a consistent and a frequent basis and putting out quality material the way I'm putting out quality material had it not been for these experiences that, like you said, I posted that video on a Tuesday. She saw it on a damn Saturday. You just don't know what is going to happen. All right. And
Right.
this is important. This is as we transition, because what we like to do here every Sunday is we like to transition this into your working life. We like to transition this into a kind of a HR conversation, or a conversation in which
Hmm.
you're feeling like you can add more value to your company. You can feel like you are being heard. You can feel like you're working at a job and you're in some way a part of the bigger picture. And all of this goes into how and what you do for a living. So I'll let
Yeah.
you address that a little bit.
Absolutely. And thank you for the segue, because you can apply this to your personal life or your professional. But when you think about your professional life, whether you're a leader, an executive, no matter what your job title is, we all make mistakes, right? It's a failure. It fails. And a lot of times we give up, we walk away, or we go into ourselves and
Mhm.
we just say, that's it. I can't do it anymore. And so how do you come up from that? So don't take failure. Don't take all the failures. It could be a mini failures. I've seen where they had action plans and not one thing went smoothly. But those are the moments that shape you as a leader. And how that your team is going to look at you is how you handle the failures, not how you handle the wins. So be resilient and talk about it. People like authentic leadership. They don't want to think that everybody is up on a pedestal when they're a leader.
Mhm.
So share those failures with your team. Be open and honest because what they're going to see is resilience.
Okay,
You
so
know,
where do you because I'm gonna be talking about this a little later on in the week because I've been keeping up with the story about, I don't know if you've heard about it, but Joy Taylor has been accused. There's been some accusations about Joy Taylor, the I guess you can call her the host or the media personality. Apparently, her best friend has a lawsuit about her where she has slept with Fox Sports or something like that, FS1, where she slept with the boss. I don't have it right in front of me, so I'm just kind of briefly going over what the lawsuit said. But apparently, she was flirting with the boss, and she slept with another colleague who gave her a show host or whatever it is. All that stuff. Again, I'll dive deep. I'll give my thoughts on that
mm,
on a later date. The point I'm making here is when you mention a leader being open about their failures and being more authentic, I'm with you. I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying. The question I have though is, where do you draw the line? How do you make it so that there's a solid balance between a leader expressing their failures and being open and honest about their failures and not letting it get too personal? Because what I've personally seen, and I've seen it over and over again, whether we're talking fitness, athletics, or education, is we're serving families. We're in the business of serving families, so it's not uncommon to see the owner of a gym be hooking up with one of the trainers or hooking up with one of the members. It's not uncommon to see the principal sleeping with one of the teachers or sleeping with one of the parents, and
right.
then we're getting favorable treatment because, again, this is the families that we are trying to serve. And in many ways that can sort of hinder the growth and development because you're not being fair when it comes to your decisions. But it's also important to recognize at the same time you do have to have a line of communication. So how do you sort of strike that balance where, when you talk about the HR world that you're in, how do you strike that balance between personal and professional communication?
That's a good question. But in that instance, you gave me like the principal sleeping with the teacher or this person, you know, that's integrity, and it's that line has already been crossed. So if they recognize, hey, I did this, you have to apologize for it. I mean, what they do on their own time should be their own time. But if it's an integrity issue,
Hmm.
should you be in leadership? Number one, because if you're in leadership, you should have high integrity. But if you are and you made a mistake and it was whatever your reasoning is,
Hmm.
own up to it, own up to your mistakes, own it, and
Hmm.
then work through it. So there's no line there because you've already crossed the line.
Right.
You've already done the action. It's already in public. So
Right.
own it and then fix
Hmm.
it.
Right.
Come up with a framework to fix it. One of the things, which doesn't really apply to that situation, but
Hmm.
something that I think that helps with that is, what are three wins you've had this week? What are three opportunities you've had this week? And we're strictly talking about, workplace.
Right.
I mean, it could work in your personal life too, but
Hmm.
that line that you're looking for, that line in your example should have never been crossed. But since it was,
Hmm.
they have to create that framework and acknowledge their mistake, acknowledge it shouldn't have been done, and what
Right.
are you going to do to get better?
Right. And I mean, also, I think what you mentioned is important because it's natural, and the argument that I've been hearing from several people that I listen to and several people that I follow, it's natural. I mean, if you were to see Joy Taylor, again, a very attractive lady, and one of the people that actually used to work there was very open and honest. And he said, look, I didn't hire her for the show because of the way she looked. And I knew myself, and I knew if I had her on the show that my mind, or we were going to go in a place where I was going to potentially put myself in a situation where I got in trouble. So I think too, it's also important that we mention how you and I sort of talked about this earlier, kind of in a tongue in cheek, funny way when I was talking about being in Tallahassee and being around these college girls. It was a funny way of saying it, but now on a more serious note, I do think your appearance and how you actually present yourself at work, you have to take that into consideration in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But at the same time, regardless of how you look on the exterior, what's going on in the interior has got to be working in unison, folks. All right, because
Yes.
the biggest transition and the thing that, again, guys, I had one hell of a 5 days. When you're talking about talking to old school legends of college football and being around that to the next day. I mean, people who know who they are, they've been around the block. I mean, conversations I was having was incredible. To the next night, I'm in a whole room full of college drunk kids that are confused. They don't know what to do. They're saying this, but they are graduating. I'm asking them their plans. They have no idea what the quote unquote real world has in store for them. So there was this huge gap between a college graduate and an older person that kind of has their career established. And what I was recognizing, I remember I was like thinking to myself as I was driving back about what it is I'm going to be talking about, is I got to be that bridge. I got to be that bridge between the college aged person, not to say you have to go to college, but that college aged person that's incredibly confused with this world that we live in, versus that person that kind of has a established career, established thing that they're doing. I have to be that bridge that aligns everything. And what I know I went on a tangent there, but what you say when you say that you have to be open and honest, it's important that you are doing some work on the inside to prove that you're qualified for the actual job. All right. And again,
It starts with yourself, being
yeah,
honest with
exactly.
yourself.
You have to be
Yeah.
honest, because what I have seen is, and I will just use the fitness example. There was a particular girl who I remember, she took a job as a trainer, no certification, nothing, had absolutely no background in fitness outside of maybe she played some sports here and there. But she'd walk around the gym with these shorts, and she'd tell me directly, "Look, I have nice legs. This is going to get me clients." And and there'd be no issue with it. Like, she was saying it as open and honest about it. And can you be mad at what she's doing to get her money and get paid? Not necessarily, but it's clear that what was going on the inside was going on in her mind. She wasn't taking into consideration as much into consideration as how she was going to just get people to come and talk to her. And now, again, you have to be in shape. You have to. That's why in fitness it gets a little sticky. But I'm just curious, as someone that's in the HR world, you kind of mentioned that. But since I see we're running out of time a little bit, I'll let you.
It gets sticky in no
Yeah.
matter what world you're in.
Right.
If you don't have that, framework, and it really starts with reflecting, you
Hmm.
know, for a current leader, for someone that's a current leader, you need to dedicate at least 30 minutes a week to reset yourself.
Hmm.
What am I doing? Where do I need to go? What do I need to change? What are great wins that I need to keep doing?
Hmm.
And that goes for anyone. You could do that. Someone that's starting out, they need to develop that whole framework. And it's going
Hmm.
to take a lot more than 30 minutes a week. But no matter where you are in life, you have
Hmm.
to start there because, like you mentioned, it comes from in here.
Right.
And so when you go through a fire, that without that framework, when you go through a fire, if there's no framework, you're going to crumble.
Hmm. Now, did you? I
And
know
that's
you
what
had
you have to think
mentioned.
about.
I know you had mentioned, like, was there like a whiteboard or something else that you wanted to share today?
Actually, yeah, I have a worksheet and a white paper that I'm sending you to put on our website to download.
Oh,
And
okay.
and it
Still
is it
working
is
on
a
it.
framework. It's
Okay.
part of a framework. The worksheet is a framework
Hmm.
that you can ask yourself reflection. You can use it, weekly. You can use it, as much as you want to. You print it out or you fill it out online, and it'll help you get to that framework and have a strong foundation because that's what you need in order to be able to go through the challenges of life, go through the challenges like you spoke of.
Hmm.
Having resilience, you have to have that framework. And so, yeah, I'll be sending that to you to put on the website. So it's a free download.
Okay, and I will make sure all of that will be included in the so the website she's referring to is called stayhigher.makeyourmove.com. And before we get out of here, let me just make sure I make the announcements. I forgot to make it earlier in the live. patreon.com/aswand44. Tap into the Patreon link. We have something regardless of where you are at financially. We have something for you so you can turn your staff into a very motivated group of people to where it's very similar, very much like equivalent. The parallel is going to be that of a youth and high school championship football team. Why do I say that level? Because at that level, they're not getting paid. They don't have their own agenda. It's not going to be about money. You want to make it so your staff is coming in every day and they're not just being there because of the money. Obviously, at this stage in the game, you got to pay them something, but you want to make it so they have things that they're doing where it's not just about the money. And that's what I teach. I mean, that's what I'm all about when it comes to Move Swiftly. Before we officially close, is there anything else you want to add?
I'm going to challenge the viewers to this week or today, sit down, write down 3 goals, 3 challenges, and 3 improvements that you need to work on, and see what you get from that. Have a framework this week to have an amazing week. If you need help, you can visit Art and HR Solutions for more help. And until next time, nice to see you again, Swand.
Likewise. All right, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.